on economic independence. The exhibition was to be opened on January 26th, the day we became a sovereign democratic republic. It shows the things manufactured in our country, in the villages, in the towns, handicrafts, as well as machine made products. We have to consider in which of these items we should expand production and which we should use more in the national interest. 20 years ago, in 1930, we pledged to work for the complete independence. By God's grace, we have redeemed that pledge. We need not go into many causes due to which we did not have to suffer as much for it as we might have well suffered. But usually, we do not value fully those things which we do not have to suffer much. Gandhiji underwent the biggest suffering for Swarajya. There were others too who followed in his footsteps and sacrificed a lot. It was no easy task to integrate such a big country with so many religions and languages, which had never been one country. So many different states had to be integrated and organized in order the whole country should be free. But we had to comparatively little trouble. We have, therefore, not enough appreciation for this. That, however, is not the end of our task. We have achieved so far is like a peasant preparing the ground for cultivation. The true Swarajya of Gandhiji's dream has still to be created by India. Those who held up and work, who held up our work, who held up the aspiration, have left. There is no obstacle now, but millions in our country are suffering today. They need food, clothing, and shelter. At least there should be no lack of these under self rule. We do not grow as much food as we need. Burma, which was the source of a good deal of rice consumed in Madras and Bengal, and some of the food surplus areas in our country have now been separated from us. There is thus a deficit. To ensure that food is available to everyone and everywhere and no one starves, we have to import food grains. Arrangements have to be made to ensure at least subsistence rations everywhere, thus necessitating various controls. These lead to many evils. In such a big country, it is not easy to have rationing and controls. The government is often brought into a desperate disrepute. People take bribes. Much else happens, but it is our doing. Aliens have no hand in this. They have left. People blame the government. To a certain extent, they are right. But it is also right to give our people a bad name in the world. Is that right? That's what I ask. As people who cannot help each other, and at this juncture, a delicate juncture, who cannot cooperate, who cannot share, is that right? This is not good for us. It is not Gandhiji's way. If we want true Swaraj, we have to follow his way. The exhibition shows, among other things, how to grow more food, what to do and use the food for this purpose, what we are going to do, what we are doing in respect, and where we have to focus our attention. We have to become independent of food imports and mostly grow what we need. It is a difficult task, especially for a country weakened by years of slavery and foreign exploitation. A poor country does not become affluent only by achieving freedom, but if all work unitedly, it can be done. Gandhiji said our Swaraj depended on the charkha. We could spin our way to Swaraj. But we did not do that. The Swaraj we have gained is not the real thing. The real Swaraj can be by producing in our country what we need. And that is the message of charkha. For this we have to change our habits. We have to transform our villages. We have to pledge ourselves not to use the imported goods. Of course, if there is anything not produced in our country but required in the national interest to produce more wealth, like machinery, it would have to be used. It will have to be imported. But we should, as far as possible, not even touch foreign products. Things made by our poor brothers and sisters in our villages and our towns have to be encouraged. All free countries do this. Their people are taught this from childhood. Our industrialists and other capable people should try to manufacture the machines which now we have to import and make our economy self-reliant. Unfortunately, we have a dispute with a neighbor of ours. We have the factories in Calcutta which used to utilize the jute grown in Pakistan. The government of India has done the best to see that economies of both the countries are not hampered, but no agreement that we reach is implemented by them. We have to act alone. They refuse to deliver even jute paid for in advance, thus harming both countries. If they cannot guarantee to implement agreements, we had better not depend on them. We have to act alone. They refuse to deliver even jute paid for in advance, thus harming both countries. If they cannot guarantee to implement agreements, we had better not depend on them. Let us grow the jute and cotton and the food grains we need. It is rather hard because we import a lot of food grains while they have enough and to spare. They got all the best cultivatable and irrigated lands and turned out the occupants who are now refugees here. We have to make arrangements for these people, bear with their anger and their sorrow, while their golden land has been aspersed by others. We have asked loudly and repeatedly for a settlement, but Pakistan obstinately refuses to do so. Thus the dispute lingers on. It can be resolved only by frank and broad-hearted fraternal talks. It should be our effort to see that both we and our neighbor should prosper. But as long as our neighbor does not take kindly to our prosperity or delights in our discomfiture, We have to keep our distance from such a neighbor and make arrangements for our security. An exhibition of the kind organized here enables us to know what goods our country produces, to select the ones we need and like, and to prefer them over cheaper imported goods. If we put some of these things, some of the discomforts in this matter for a year or 3 years or 5 years, our country will grow stronger and we will stand in the fear of none. Today we have some kind of peace in the country and it is united as never before. There is a big thing. This is indeed very encouraging. But now our task is to keep united. For this, it has to be made strong by a common effort of all of us. It cannot be done by depending on the government alone to do so. It has not necessary resources. It is everybody's duty for the next 3 or 4 years to help the government in every way, strengthening the country by avoiding the quarrels and controversies and engaging in constructive activities as depicted by this exhibition. The world today is full of conflict and strife. We should endeavor to save our country from getting involved in this. It is a difficult task, but it is always exhilarating to work against such heavy odds. Only cowards fear adversity.